Hello and welcome to Interlude 2. Once again, it is time to stop and catch our breath along the path. Let's look back and recall the milestones we passed and ready ourselves for the path ahead. The fire metaphor was our starting point. The way of seeing illustrated by this metaphor is that objects and phenomena in the world are seen as isolated, independent, and possessing an identity or essence of their own. Whereas the reality is that an object, like a flame, is dependent on fuel, air, convection currents, capillarity, and many other components and mechanisms and is a process rather than a thing. As early as this point in our journey, we noted that we tell stories about such phenomena as fire. We extended this way of seeing to phenomena like life in an organism, which is revealed through this lens to be a metabolic process and not some mysterious force which is contained in the organism. We made a note there that the importance of seeing all this deeply is that by ridding ourselves of these illusions, we can steer away from deluded actions and practices that lead to suffering. The next stop on our journey was to make the distinction between ignorance, illusion, delusion, and hallucination. Humans were ignorant once of the mechanism of the solar system. Once worked out, we realized that the notion that it is the sun that goes around the earth is an illusion. That illusion persists even after the realization of the truth. But at least now we can stop being deluded. Delusions are the seeds of hallucinations, which are pure fantasy. Working to eradicate our ignorance, seeing through illusions and setting aside delusions once again free us from suffering and wasted effort caused by futile or even dangerous practices and habits. Our next stop helped us see that the sense of being a self, of being indivisible, independent essence that is somehow in the body, this sense lies along a continuum that ranges from mild to intense. Some events and experiences seem to dissolve it, as when we are totally absorbed in an activity, and some seem to intensify it to a point of pain, as when we are being blamed by others. The seeing of this continuum of self is the first clue that this sense of self is not a constantly existing independent object. It arises and takes various shapes based on innumerable causes and conditions. Some of these shapes that this sense of self takes become ways that we define and delineate our identities. While some are useful and effective, some lead to suffering and even danger. At our next port of call, we explored one mechanism that fabricates the sense of self: craving, clinging, and aversion. This mechanism is an ancient one: approach or avoid. While this mechanism protects an organism, it is a strong producer of the sense of self because, to the mind, only with respect to a subject, an I, a me, can there be a wanting or a hating. Language, which is a more recent innovation of humans, sustains and embeds it in conversations and cultures and begins to entangle us more tightly. We also realized a hint of how we differentiate between two ends of polarities: cold versus hot, peace versus noise, etc., and crave or cling or avoid one end or the other of these polarities. The next lens to see more deeply is impermanence, or anicca as the Buddhists call it. This is the uncertainty, the constant flux of events, phenomena, and even our own bodies. If nothing at all changed, then we cannot even perceive, for our senses are built to detect and track change. It is the very fabric of existence and life. Yet it leads us to suffering, for we crave some kinds of change or are averse to others. The key here is to ride the waves, holding lightly the changes we desire, recognizing that we may not get it. Impermanence naturally led us to our next lens, the thought experiment of the ship of Theseus. Though the ship's parts were replaced gradually over the years one by one, we continue to see it as the same ship. Our bodies and minds are ships of Theseus too, but the illusion we have is of a continuously unchanging self. Our perceptual process constructs this unchanging identity, but it is a construction. Language is a large part of this construction process, a mechanism that we called the narrative center of gravity. We now see how the candle flame metaphor is a product, a construction of identity, like the ship of Theseus. Each one of us is a biological ship of Theseus. Our next lens is a logical extension. We used the lens of being fledged. From the time we or any other organism is born, we begin a process of becoming, which takes a long period till we reach a point that crystallizes into an individual. Parallelly, a process of disintegration slowly dissolves the organism back into the component chemicals in death. Many organisms and animals are not even a pure this or a pure that. Humans are heavily dependent on the microorganisms that live in us. The mitochondria in our bodies were independent organisms long ago in the history of life on Earth. So, the ship of Theseus has been evolving over 4 billion years, and you stand here now at one end of it. How meaningless then to speak of being American or Jewish or Indian or Muslim or Hindu or Christian, because no matter how hard you try, you cannot find this component in your body. It is an even more deluded fabrication than a self. The trail now led us to the narrative center of gravity. Because we can tell stories of cause and effect, subject and object, and these stories help us navigate through the world, we ask, who is telling the story? But this is an illusion, this narrative center of gravity. It is an abstraction, like the physical center of gravity. I want to emphasize here again that the path we are on is not one of eliminating the sense of self. We have created a culture and civilization where this narrative is tightly embedded. So to eliminate it would be a mistake. The path we are on is to see it for what it is, an illusion. Seeing something as an illusion is not the same as denigrating it, scorning it, despising it, or discarding it. We still say the sun rises, though it does not. We still can enjoy a rainbow, though we know it is an illusion and not an object in the world. And you can still say, I am going to design a new toy, and do it. The path we are on is to eliminate all the suffering that the sense of self creates while holding lightly the good it can do. Our next lens was an extension of the narrative center of gravity. We took a close look at the narratives themselves. Narratives have a subject and object. We explain what our senses perceive using narratives of cause and effect. Our brains have evolved to do this. We see agency and deliberate design even where there is none. We saw how, in the coin toss tournament, even a purely random outcome can seem like there was some magic at work for the winner of the tournament. Thirst arises, and we say, there is an I who is thirsty. There is an I who goes and gets a glass of water. These stories are useful descriptions, what Sean Carroll might call poetic naturalism. It is when these stories entangle us and trap us that it leads to suffering. Many outcomes are inevitable, like the coin toss tournament. The entire universe is an enormous coin toss tournament. Since that is too humongous to comprehend, we tell narratives to reduce it to our level of comprehension. We have to use stories skillfully without getting entangled in them. Most important of all, as our next episode on Neuroscience illustrated, the storyteller is a voice in the head. It is not another little person inside telling a story. That storytelling function is there to make a connected and coherent narrative, not to accurately or truthfully describe the world. The story does not mean anything fundamental about you. You can listen to it much as you might listen to a song playing on your Bluetooth speaker as you go about your work. Once we see this, we can extend the same understanding to the stories that others tell and listen to them with more compassion. This is where we are right now on our path. You may be experiencing a feeling of incredulity. What about all this amazing complexity in the world? How did it all come about? Surely there are deep reasons for us to be here and experience what we are experiencing. Our next episode will go into this question. See you then.